Here we are continuing the Enlightenment, and the last video we looked at the major changes going on first in the sphere of religion with the advent of the Protestant Reformation and the war between the Catholics and the Protestants. On the other hand, the French Revolution, which toppled the aristocracy and created a National Assembly that was in 1789. So those are two major changes which are going to breed a new age of tolerance, which we spoke about in the last video. So now we have the rise of what's called the Jewish question. And the Jewish question simply is what right should be given to the Jewish people? I mean, on one hand, should we be granted full citizenship? Should we be like everybody else? I mean, we do live in their land, and we've been living there for a long time, in many cases for centuries before others had arrived there. So we do live in their land. On the other hand, option number two is maybe we should get a special status, and special not in the complimentary sense, but we should be isolated. We should have a unique status because, hey, maybe the Jews are just using us. They're just using our lands as a way station until they can get back to their Holy Land, the Promised Land, which they've been dreaming and praying to get back to for millennia. So they're just using us, and therefore we should not be given the same status as our counterparts. So that was a question which was debated in parliaments, was known as the Jewish question. Now, to appreciate the issue and the impact it's going to have on us, let's look at our situation before the Enlightenment. Well, on one hand, we lived in isolated communities. Where's my cursor here? We lived in isolated communities. So we were part of society. I mean, we did interact, but we were living in our own societies. We had to wear special badges. That began in the 13th century. So it wasn't the Nazis that introduced that. The Muslims themselves had us put on badges. So we were identified and badgered as a result. Jewish practice was restricted, so it wasn't pleasurable. It wasn't easy to live as a Jew in all these lands. The rabbis served as the judges and the leaders, which meant that in terms of the administration of our communities, we weren't really involved day to day with our non-Jewish counterparts, the lords and so on, but we had our own leadership, so we were very much our own entity. And finally, we had special taxes, which was a heavy burden on us. And we spoke about all the poverty and the difficulties of living during this time. So you can imagine how much the Jewish people were excited, at least many are excited, by the prospects of being able to be granted full citizenship. So the Jewish question was debated in parliaments. It became known as the age of Jewish emancipation, where we were freed for the first time to enter society fully. France was the first nation to grant us equal rights, and the question was debated through parliaments for 100 years. Eventually, Romania in 1923 was the last country to grant us full citizenship. So it was a period of time and adjustment both for the Jewish people and the non-Jews who were for the first time dealing with Jews who were given equal status in their societies. And that's obviously going to be dramatic, not only for us, but for the Jews and the non-Jews, that we're living in their midst, because now we're going to be able to go full force into society and try to make our mark uninhibited by all the different limitations we had prior to the Enlightenment. So this is going to be dramatic, and in the next video we're going to look at how the Jewish people responded to this major change that resulted during the age of the Enlightenment. So let's do a little review. Here we are in the age of Enlightenment. We have major changes, Protestant Reformation, French Revolution, and we have the rise of the Jewish question, which is what should be the status of the Jewish people? Should we be granted full citizenship or not? Maybe get our own special, unique status, which is with its difficulties and limitations. Before the Enlightenment, just to appreciate the impact it's going to have on us, we lived in isolated communities. Special badges had to be worn. Wasn't easy. Jewish practice was restricted. They made it very difficult. Rabbis were the judges and the leaders, so we really lived and functioned on our own, and we also had to pay a special burden of taxes on the Jewish people. So we had the period of Jewish emancipation. It begins with France in 1791 and goes all the way until 1923, with Romania being the last country to grant us citizenship.